this computer. Welcome in, Heart Talkers, to another episode of the Heart Talk podcast. I am your host, Laura Lawrence. And if you've been with me for a few months, you know that we have everyday conversations with everyday people, navigating both the hard and hope-filled seasons of life, which often happen simultaneously. I am I don't know. I don't even know what the emotion is that I feel sitting heart to heart today with a guest who I have known since she's just a young teen, a young girl, formerly my student. So that dates me. You know, I'm always trying to just come off younger than I am. Her family lives near, right almost up the road from us. Just a great kid, and I'm so honored to have her as a guest today on the Heart Talk podcast. Launne Kolla, welcome in to the Heart Talk podcast.
Thanks. Thanks for calling me a kid too, making me feel young.
You know, here's what I said to my husband the other day is like when you have a restart, like when you have a starter marriage and then like a finisher marriage, you end up having kids the same age as your former students' kids. You know, it's fine. You know, I'm like 15 years, 20 years older than most of you, but we have kids the same age. It's all good. I'm so excited to have you today because there are going to be so many topics that we dive into that the Heart Talk community here is going to love, because you are just a ray of sunshine. And anybody who knows you or has met you, they don't forget you. You know, they don't always get your name right. You know, Luann, Lonnie. I've heard it all.
Yeah, me too.
I've heard it all. But I first came to know you when you were a student in my grade 7 class. And one of the stories I love the most is when you talk about, you know, my biology classes being kind of the catalyst for the direction of where your life went. And it's just been such a privilege to see you grow up and see you have a family and have kids on your own and do all these really incredible things that you've done over the last number of years. So, before I tell your whole story, why don't we just, you know, give you a moment to share with the listeners, like, who is Launne Kolla?
Oh, geez, I think that's the hardest. That just starts off with the hardest question, a deep hitter. Yeah, I'm lawn, like the grass. I like to tell people, like you say, people never know how to pronounce it. I'm a only child farm kid, born and raised Mesquite, Saskatchewan, very small place. Grew up on a grain and cattle farm and went to university, became a wildlife and marine biologist. And now I live in Saskatoon with my family, my husband. We have three little girls. And in my spare time, I love just exploring the earth. I love traveling, hiking, camping, canoeing, and just making memories with my family outside.
You know, it's so cute. My son is obsessed with this like Earth Ranger program because he wants to become an Earth Ranger. And I'm like, I know a real live Earth Ranger. You do? He says. I'm like, I do. And I'm like,
That's amazing.
and you have met her mom. And in fact, he ordered his little Earth Ranger certificate online, or my husband did, and he didn't actually order it. He just told him he did. And so he's like, we got to laminate something now because this kid thinks he's an Earth Ranger.
Ruby
Yeah,
got one of those too.
did she? Right?
Yeah.
And you know, this podcast, if you heard some of the episodes, is about how we turn pain into purpose. So, you know, we're getting heart to heart. We're gonna talk about some of those things of, you know, how did you get to be the co-founder and CEO of ReRoute? You know, how did you start the Do More Good mission? You know, where did that come from? Because not everybody turns pain into purpose the same way, but you have made a significant impact on the lives of others. You've raised over $150,000 for breast cancer and ovarian cancer research, which are two causes near and dear to my heart. So, have you always felt like this burning desire to give back?
Yeah, I have. That explains me like to a T. I feel like, I just need to like do more, help people no matter where I can, help the planet. I feel like I've always thought of myself like, okay, one day I'm gonna like be Jane Goodall and like have done all these crazy things and just have such a like that's my like goalpost. I really want to like do really good for the planet and for people and just give back as much as I can. But like I've realized you don't have to be, you don't have to be the most famous person in the world doing that thing. You just have to like encourage and influence and help other people do little things. And it really all adds up.
Yeah, the little things add up to be the big things. And I can tell you, you are a topic of conversation in our house. Every time my husband uses 10 pieces of paper towel, which I am sorry, we do use paper towel. I'm trying to phase it out, but he is a farmer. You grew up on the farm. These farmers are hard to break. It's like you do not let your semi run for an hour, Alan, if you are not using it.
Yeah,
And I think it's so
I love
great
it.
that you have such clout because I mean, like, we know your family so well, right? But there's often times where there's been things that you have said that have made me rethink sustainability, how much we waste, you know, and that's all related to our mental health. When I look around my house and I'm like, gosh, we've collected so many things and it's clutter and it's taking up space in my mind. And if it takes up space in my mind, that doesn't belong there, right? So let's talk
Yeah,
about
exactly.
we have today I did a post and I want to talk about some of the harder stuff before we get into the tips, the things that you can offer to moms, women, families about sustainability and how we can do more good. But I did a post today because my son's turning 10 and last night was really emotional for me. You ever have those nights as a mom where you're like, oh my God, failed the mission, failed it.
Yeah, always.
Failed it. And I am sobbing loud enough to hope to wake up my husband. So he wakes up being like, oh my gosh, are you okay? No, I had to wake him up. And and I was just like was rehashing the last 10 years of my motherhood journey with him, who's my third out of four children. And we were, talking prior to the podcast about some of those hard days that you faced as a mom, grief filled, having lost, some pretty important people to you, having lost some pregnancies. Let's talk a little bit about that because, I don't think we talk about it openly enough. If people follow our socials, they don't see that harder, darker time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I haven't talked about it too much like on podcasts or anything either, but like you said, I have there was a 6 month period where I was unemployed, just got out of university, couldn't get a job. There's hiring freezes for biologists, whatever. But realized my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. She went chemo, radiation, mastectomy, and then as she was just starting her breast cancer journey, my mother-in-law was dying basically. And in that 6 months, she passed away from ovarian cancer. So like you mentioned, that kind of set a fuel for me and my husband and our families. And we've organized steak nights and wine nights and to raise money so that in the hopes that one day there is a cure for all these cancers and that other families don't have to go through what we've, went through. And then besides that, I guess after having my first daughter, which was a very traumatic birth, so a lot to deal with after the fact. Yeah, I had three miscarriages after that, kind of while we were trying for our second baby. I had a breakup with one of my best friends, which I don't think is also friendship breakups aren't talked about
Yeah.
enough. They're very hard. They're, usually something you can fix when you have a fight with a friend. It's not like maybe breaking up with a boyfriend who you just say, "Oh, whatever, I hate him," and that's it. It's more so you still love that person. So, um, and also lost my father-in-law, keep it going forward. So we've had a lot of grief in our lives. But like you said, you turn that pain into passion, lots of therapy, lots of, talking it out. And I've chosen to just, move forward. And I really just think that, you know, just to fuel that into passion, like you say, and you're not for everyone. And I think just being your most authentic self and going after like what you believe in and trying to make your path in the world and do good things is, what I've tried to do from all of that.
Yeah, we're not going to reach everyone, but if we just reach one, I like to say, if we just reach one. And I think that for a lot of women that I've held space for, and even when women have held space for me, it's just witnessing that we're experiencing pain. It's the ability to feel seen and heard and validated that we're not going crazy, or we're not a
Mm,
bad mom or a bad wife or a bad daughter. We're just really trying to process all the big emotions. That is a lot of grief to experience in a short amount of time. Um, how did you how did you process that all? Because when we're dealing with grief in relation to, I think in relation to I call them the anchors in the family, the women, the moms, the grandmothers. That's tough. That's tough.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I was spinning my wheels for a while there. I had, I'm a very outgoing, happy-go-lucky person, and I had dark thoughts, and I was like, should, if not, like I would like, yeah, it's hard to talk about, but like would people even notice if I wasn't here, right? Like,
Hmm.
those starts of those feelings. And yeah, just going through the miscarriages that I feel aren't talked about enough. It's starting to become more of a thing, and I'm very open about talking about it because it is so common. Um, but yeah, that friendship breakup really threw me for a loop. I had to do a lot of therapy in the last 5 years to, kind of be able to work through it. And then, like I said, and then kind of in the last couple of years, we lost my father-in-law. So my husband lost both his parents by before he was 30 some. So it's been tough, but I think there's always a way to just keep moving forward day by day, and
Yeah.
little by little it gets better.
Yeah, one day at a time, right? That my grandmother used to have, I actually have it on my wall. Um, that poem about, I can only take it one step, one day at a time. And the reason why I love having these conversations is because the perception for many of us, who are on social media, who are entrepreneurs, who are, going out there in the world and doing more good, often is that maybe we haven't traveled the paths of darkness that a lot of other people have. And you're right. I think the conversation about friendship breakups for women, because I too had experienced some of them, in a darker time, those just take the winds right out of your frickin' sails, right? It's like a different kind of grief when you lose a
Mhm.
good girlfriend.
Yeah, because they're not, it's someone you still love and have loved for so long. It's not, maybe a relationship like a boyfriend or a spouse, whatever. You're mad and you break up, and that obviously is a whole different ballpark when you build a life with someone or whatever. But you're able to see, okay, this wasn't for me, like, I'm better for it. And maybe you hate them, or maybe you're happier without them, whatever. And maybe you're like that with friends too, but for me it was, I've never been able to not kind of work past things with friends, and to have things kind of unanswered, and still love them and still want the best for them. So it is a very hard thing to process, for sure.
Absolutely. So when you decided, listen, I've been going through some darkness. There's a lot of grief. We kind of lose ourselves a little bit, and then you're like, you know what? I'm just going to do more good. I'm going to just, help where I can, do what I can. So when the do more good kind of mission and vision started, what were you hoping that would come of it?
Yeah, so I've always been like wanting to save animals, obviously being a biologist, that's what I do for a living. And then, I ended up, I think like everyone, I don't know when that was, like 2018, 2017, saw that picture that went viral with the turtle that had a straw up its nose. And I'm like, I'm gonna take away all the straws in Saskatoon. So I was started this Excel sheet. I'm like phoning every restaurant, bar. I'm like, oh, rinks have straws too. Movie theaters have straws. And I went on this big mission to get rid of straws. And then, it went from that to seeing all these people wanting to like have no waste and have a whole year's waste in a jar. And, so I went down a rabbit hole, but just most importantly, I just wanted to help people, whether it's reducing their waste, learning about climate change, spending less, like learning about the planet, helping people in the community. I just wanted to put up little tips and tricks, facts, things that just make people stop and think. I think I'm from an interesting background where um like I know, fossil fuels are bad for the planet. They're the number one producer for climate change. But I also work in industry. I've been to the tar sands. I've been on oil sites. I know we can't like just, tomorrow stop oil and right. I come from a farming background. So I have these different um perspectives. I think that
Yeah.
a lot of people that think the normal eco environmentalists have. So I just, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I just really wanted to help people say, hey, maybe you could try this to give up paper towel,
Yeah.
and someone like you is like, oh yeah, maybe I'll try that. Maybe I won't. But just easy, digestible, transparent, non-judgy tips and tricks.
Yeah, and you're so good at that. Let's talk about one of the things you did last year I found fascinating, and I definitely shared it with my daughter who spends a lot of time on TikTok and socials where there's a lot of influencing of consumption of materialistic things. The rule of five. Let's talk about that, right? Was it the rule of five?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I challenged myself to only buy 5 new pieces of clothing. It's a challenge that's been going around. I've seen people usually just do clothing, but for myself, I added in accessories like jewelry, purses, shoes, belts. So I could only buy 5 new things in that realm of stuff. And I only ended up buying 2 things. So it worked, which was great. I was like, oh, there's probably no way I can do this. Like I'm like, I
I
need a
already
dress for a Christmas thing, and
I already blew it. What's the date today? January.
January 20th.
Listen, I found a couple of new things. I can restart. Maybe my year is going to start February 1st. So what were the
Yeah,
two
there you
things
go.
that you bought? What were the two things that you ended up buying?
I bought a pair of high heels that were from an ethical, sustainable company that were an investment that I will have for a long time. And also, invested in a good bathing suit. So, and that's all I did. And part of the challenge was, to not also just go crazy buying secondhand. Because I think shopping secondhand is great, but it can also get to the point where, okay, everything's so cheap. I got these 15 things for $35 and you're saving money, you're shopping secondhand, but you're still consuming, right?
Right.
And buying all those things, you might not like them in a year, you donate them. So it really helped me think about my purchases and what I actually wanted, needed,
Yeah.
and should spend money on.
I grew up with a dad, Lon, who used to say, "Is it a need or a want?" And I said that to my daughter yesterday. We were out shopping. I'm like, well, is it a need or a want? As I found the most beautiful dress jacket that was half price. But I certainly have, since following your lead on some things, been much more mindful of consumption because it just adds up so quick. And you look around in your house and you're like, I'm going to be on an episode of Hoarders right away if I don't stop this consumption. You know,
Yeah.
it's so okay, so you bought two brand new things and anything else you needed, like if there was a dress for a gala or something, you either borrowed or shop secondhand.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
Or
I
used what I had.
or use what you had. I'll say a pair of heels that I bought last year secondhand um are they receive the most comments when I'm out and about speaking from anybody than any other heels, and they were 15 bucks.
They're probably broken in too.
They were broken
You hurt
in.
your feet.
Nice pair of leopard print heels. Okay, so anybody listening to this, if they want to take this rule of five challenge, they can maybe even start small, like you said, just five articles of clothing, or maybe five specific items for their home that normally they would splurge and buy multiple on. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think just challenging yourself. And if you end up buying 15 or you end up buying eight, you're like, well, I probably would have bought 20. So
yeah,
just giving yourself a little goal and it doesn't have to be all or nothing or, just to try it out. I like to kind of, like you said, are things a want or a need, or I like to place, I think about it for a week before I buy it. Or maybe you don't need that long, maybe 48 hours. Do I need this? And lots of times I'll be like, I'll get really, I think it's just the influencer life. You go on something and you see, oh, that person that I do really like and trust, they really like this. And man, I could really use this and we should get this. So you like put it in your cart. But then, if I did buy it, half the time I end up not using it or, or it doesn't get used enough or whatever. It's like some hair product that I actually didn't need that sits in a drawer, right? So I like to put a time frame before I spend the money and think about if I really want it. Not only will I use it, but like will I have this for a long time? If it's a piece of clothing, is this blazer? I'm going to have this for, the rest of my life for the next 10 years. Am I going to donate this in a couple years? That kind of thing. Just all those thoughts to go into it. And then half the time, if I give a week, I forget about it. I'm like, okay, I
yeah,
didn't actually need that.
yeah. Because we are bombarded with sales and marketing. I mean, I got to share this because I like bringing some humor to the podcast. Two things that I bought last year that oh my gosh, scrolling on Instagram late. You shouldn't do that when you're a perimenopausal woman and a mom of four, at 2 in the morning. You should not be shopping off of Instagram ads. But I bought one of those red light face shaper things. And
Yeah.
I don't think I've used it once, you know? I don't think I've used it once. So you think I would learn. You think I would learn, okay? So there was a great sale on a Kala red light therapy collar thing.
Ask thing.
Well,
Okay.
no,
Yeah.
no, because I'm getting a little older, you got to keep the neck and the decollage nice and youthful. So I'm like, oh my gosh, $150. I didn't keep it in the cart for a week, Lon. I didn't. All of a sudden I pressed order and it's here. And you know what? It's still in the box. Or you see that you're like,
Yeah.
I should really order that. So you influenced me on one thing, which was really, I mean, I ordered it and I am going to use it. It was that cork um, yoga mat.
Oh,
Beautiful.
yeah.
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 So beautiful. I haven't taken it out of the box yet. I'm going to. But I grew up with a
There you
mom.
go.
And a mom, if you're listening to this, I love you dearly. And I'm so thankful that you always had a closet full of things we could shop in if we didn't have gifts. But I grew up with a mom who has a room of stuff. Do you have, I think those of us who grew up in
Yeah.
rural Saskatchewan, our moms have closets or rooms full of things that they bought just in case.
Yeah. Totally.
So I come from a long line of like just in case we need this. But I think these are great tips because number one, it helps with overconsumption. Number two, it saves us money. It
Hmm.
saves us money. So then you went into co-founding a new business last year, ReRoute. In Saskatoon. You have been on the news, you have been on the radio, you have done some incredible things, reaching your goals with ReRoute. So tell us a little bit about that business venture.
Yeah. It was my husband's idea. He always tells me I better tell people that, but it's a like hassle-free pickup service for recyclables beyond the blue bin. So stuff you can't put in the city recycling. Household hazardous waste. So things like oil, aerosol cans, chemicals, so much stuff that shouldn't go in the landfill. And we also take back people's Sarcan, like their beverage recycling. So your pop bottles, whatever, and you can get the money back yourself, or you can choose to donate it to a cause of your choice. And then probably our most popular one at the moment is our donations. So we're picking up people's donations and then we'll take them, either source out people directly in need of these items in Saskatoon or take them to organizations that are supporting people in need. So it gives people a way, kind of all this stuff that you don't have to take the time to research where things have to go. You don't have to take it to somewhere during their business hours, trying to fit it in during your working hours. We take that all off their hands and we're really plugged into what places are taking what, and we make sure we're diverting the waste from the landfill and putting it to where it should go.
That is incredible. So, how much waste have you rerouted since starting ReRoute?
Yeah, so we've only been in business 6 months, and last time I checked, we have rerouted 18,000 pounds of waste from the Saskatoon landfill. So that's like the size of an African elephant. So it's pretty cool to see. And I really think people want to do better for the planet and they want to donate items to, organizations that are taking them and
Hmm.
help people. But it's just people are busy, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone's so busy, no one has the time. So we're giving people a way to be able to do that. And it's been really cool to see, the positives coming out from it.
Yeah, you just did something where you help people get rid of their Christmas trees and for a great cause, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's something we thought of. And yeah, we're picking up people's live or now dead real Christmas trees and taking them to the MRC where they'll be mulched and composted. So keeping them out of the landfill, taking that off someone's to-do list. And all we were asking was for a donation to prairie harm reduction. So like you were saying, I've always wanted to give back, and that was something like a main focus of our business was how can we give back the most. Lots of people are like, why wouldn't you just charge for that and give a couple bucks off? But we really want to like make that positive impact. So I don't know how many trees we've done. Like it's probably been over 20 or 30. Actually, I could look, but and anyways, we've raised over $3,000 just from picking up trees. So it's really cool. We're really happy about that.
That's amazing. Well, let me tell you where our tree is. Typical
In the
farmyard,
snowbank.
right off our deck. That's what Al does every year. Just takes it out the front door and then heaves it over the deck, and then it goes in the ravine. Because farm living. So listen, if you did a reroute on the farm, I understand the logistics of that would be difficult, but I will tell you, we'll be your number one customer. I'm sure of it.
There you go.
I actually have a
Hey, that's
box.
providing habitat. So it's all good.
Okay, I'll tell him. We actually have a box. I have a box of stuff ready to bring in to you. And Alan's always like, "What is this stuff? Can I just take it to the dumpster?" No, you can't. I'm bringing it into Launne the next time I go into Saskatoon. Okay.
Perfect.
See, so
Love it.
you're making an impact. So where do you see like what are your visions or your goals for 2025 with Reroute?
Oh, just to keep at it, we've only been in business 6 months and there's a lot to learn. As you would know, like being an entrepreneur, kind of shooting from the hip off the start, but we're just trying to get our name out there, trying to get people to know who we are because we haven't even, reached 1% of the population, right? So I just think if we could get the word out there, we can just do more good and we'd be able to help so many more people directly in the community and also the environment, keeping stuff out of the landfill. But I think as I've been doing this and seeing the unhoused people in our community, people that aren't like able to have food to eat, that's just my new passion is I just really want to help as many people in Saskatoon as we can. And it's just we've really, handing out things firsthand to people like so many of us have like a water bottle drawer where there's like
Yeah.
20 water bottles that we don't even touch or need, and donating them and having little kids come up to me and hug me because they now have their very own water bottle, or they now have school supplies, or mothers thanking me because their kids didn't eat for a week. Like, it's just, once your eyes are open to that, it's so, like, you can't unsee it. And like that, now that's all I want to do, is just to help people that are in need in Saskatoon.
Yeah, I love that reminder because it is too easy to look to not see, to look away, to just stay in our own zones of comfort and, do the best we can where we are. But once we do see and we meet people and we see how our communities are suffering and struggling, you can't look away. So super proud of seeing all of that, that snowball effect take shape for you. And they say, and I don't know if anyone's told you this, they say it takes like 5 hard years when you first start, your entrepreneurship journey. And I don't know, I think I'm in year 10 and she's still pretty hard, but it is empowering to kind of be your own boss and create the vision and the goal that you want to tunnel your passion and purpose the way that you want to direct it. And you've done that so well. So if you could leave the Heart Talk listeners today with a couple of tips, maybe even one tip, of moving forward, trying to be more sustainable, more ethical, just think about the impact that they're making. What would you say?
Um, well, there's 1,000 tips that you could say: turn down your heat, eat less meat, give up paper towel, like, recycle properly, whatever, the compost. There's 1,000 things like that. But I think, you know, over the years, I've really come to know that, like, it's overwhelming. Like, you are like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, or oh, that was bad, or I shouldn't have bought this. And I think just to like dumb it down and just to really just use what you have and try to buy less. Like,
Mm,
it doesn't, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. You don't need to only buy 5 new things, or you don't need to only um put your year's trash in a little pickle jar. Like, that's crazy, right? In the world we live in, that's impossible. Like, there's no such thing as zero waste at all. um but just to not put that pressure on yourself, and to just use what you have. And if I'm hosting a family dinner, do I need to buy, paper plates just because we're barbecuing outside? No, I'll use the cutlery I have, whatever. Just using what you have and watching what you buy, really thinking about those purchases, really, voting with your dollar is what I like to say. Like, who are you buying that from? Is it a small business? Is it a local business? Um, does this business have anything on their website about sustainability, about their ethics? Because that should be who you're supporting, for a better planet, for us, for our kids. And I really think if you need to replace something, you can easily always just like Google eco-friendly yoga mat, right? And companies will come up, and you don't need to buy that, $30 one from HomeSense that's full of plastic, that was made by children somewhere in a country,
mhm.
right? You can put your money into businesses that are giving back, that are being ethical, that are being sustainable.
And often those products are also, you get a lot of longevity out of them. They're well-made
Mhm.
products. They're not just the disposable, quick fashion or quick purchase kind of materials. I love it. I really like your reminder of do what you can and just buy less, and to
Mhm.
practice some self-compassion because it is overwhelming. And we do get a lot of messages. And I love that about you is that you understand the nuances, and it's a judgment-free zone with you. So, where can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram at do more good, do.more.good, Facebook as well, and then reroute SAS, so www.reroutesk.ca, or at reroutesk on socials.
Excellent. So I'll link those all in the show notes. And just know that you're often in my head and you have made an impact in terms of how I, spend my money and how I think about how we do things here. And I'm just so darn proud of you to see how you've evolved since a young teen. So thank you so much for joining me today, Lon.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great to chat with you always.
Yeah, this will be a good one. Take care.